So it may be hard to picture it now, but soon it'll be reasonably safe to return to work, albeit under a post-pandemic reality and set of rules. Now, this is leading to many questions, of course, about the workplace and your rights could look like when you return. And of course, the big question, do you even need to return? For more on this, we're joined by employment lawyer Lior Samfiru. Lior, always great to see you. Thank you so much. So we have to get through, of course, the third wave. And who knows how long this could go. Successful vaccine rollout, of course. But when this is all over, hopefully it's soon, do companies have the right to order employees back to the office?
So, Anthony, here's how this works. COVID-19 really is a unique situation, a situation where whatever happens there does not necessarily carry through past it. So both employers and employees have the right to expect that the status quo will resume once COVID is over, that we will go back to the way things were prior to COVID. This means that employers are going to be able to require employees to go back to their previous work arrangements, including working in the office, once COVID has passed us and once governments allow that to happen. By the same token, those employees that want to work at home are not necessarily going to be able to tell their employer, that's our new arrangement, I don't want to go back to the office. So yes, we can see, and I think some employers will choose to call employees back to the office once it's safe to do so and COVID is passed.
That's interesting as well, because a lot of people working from home, leading to another thing about the overtime hours. And I don't know if you can expand on that, if you could, because so many people work extra hours. And how does that play into this? And what can you actually get away with? What can the employer get away with?
Well, certainly it is the difficulty with working remotely is the concept of monitoring work and ensuring that employees are in fact working. And that's been a struggle for some employers. But certainly with the use of technology, employers now have become more proficient in being able to ensure that employees are effective and productive at work. So the overtime rules continue to apply. If an employee works extra hours, depending on your location and province, there's different rules. Overtime has to be paid. So while it's more difficult now, I think that with technology, there's really no excuses for that. And I think a lot of employers have realized that, wait a second, we don't necessarily have to have employees at the office all the time. They can do their work. We can do our job as employers in supervising and monitoring them while they're remote. So I think some employers, even though they can require employees to come back, will choose to continue this remote working arrangement.
Yeah, it's interesting as well because that 8-hour workday turns into 15, 20 sometimes because you never quite know. So when people do come back, if they do come back, what can we expect? What should we expect from the employers? That might be different before the pandemic when it comes to, of course, health and safety, labor rights, and the big question, sick days.
Sure. It is completely naive to think that things will just be exactly the way they were, that we can just wipe out this last year and a half. I don't think that's going to happen. Now that we realize that with proper social distancing and with proper health protocols in the workplace, we can keep people healthier and safer. I think those measures are going to have to continue even when it's not necessarily just for COVID-19. So employers are going to be expecting to have workplaces that are cleaner and safer, much more than before, and employees will have recourse in workplaces where that does not happen. Now, there's going to also have to be some discussions between employers and employees about these remote working arrangements. Are employees going to get paid more or less for working from home? What about this concept of monitoring and geo-monitoring? There's all kinds of apps that employers are using. Can those be continued? And there's privacy rights that come with that. So it is a whole new world and new considerations now that employers and employees are going to have to turn their mind to it, things that we wouldn't have been discussing a few years ago, but COVID has brought those to light these days.
Now, Lior, I want to get to this before we run out of time. We're almost out. The question about mandating vaccines. What's the position on that?
Well, I'm going to turn and kind of throw the buck at Doug Ford on this, or the premiers in any province, simply because of the fact that the government of Ontario, the government of every province are the ones that can decide this issue. Employers do not have the right to mandate vaccines in most cases, so the governments are the ones that are going to have to implement that.
And then, of course, there are the religious exemptions, the medical exemptions to take into account as well, which could be a human rights issue. Of course, we'll continue to explore that. Lior, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.